Hello, today I'll be working with Svelte, which is a cool front-end framework for building interactive applications, just like you could do it with React, Vue, Angular, or other. What I like about Svelte is how much code you need to build the same applications as with React or Angular. It's very simple to learn. If you know some JavaScript, you're probably gonna pick it up very quickly. So we will be building this to-do app. I will show you how to create basic logic, how to build components, how to pass values around, how to handle events like click events, and later I will also include store. So we'll have a shared store between different components where we will be able to call it and update it. In Stepwise, we used it for the simple internet performance application, which measures the speed of your internet, and it actually worked very well. The more I work with Svelte, the more I can imagine working with more complex applications. Certainly we could build a lot of applications with backend interactions. There are some good modules for animation. There are cooler modules there is a module for routing. So yeah, there is quite a lot of good stuff. In order to follow my instructions, you will probably have to know some basic HTML and CSS and some JavaScript. You'll have to have Node.js installed on your computer and be able to work with NPM packages. You can use any code editor. I'm using VS Code here, which has a good extension for the Svelte. I will also be showing you how to use the Svelte extension for browser. There is a one for Chrome. I think there is one for Firefox as well. Okay, so let's start with the app. We will create this to-do app, which allows you to add another task to the list and gives us ability to toggle completed task, and we can remove tasks that we don't need. It's a good showcase for basic Svelte functionalities. If you ever created to-do apps in different frameworks, you will be able to compare it very easily. Here, as a starter, I will use SvelteKit. We first have to install it on our machine, and we need this line of code. And now I just have to initialize a project with npm init, svelte at next, which means that the latest version, and the name of the app. This will create a project. It will ask me a couple of questions, like what sort of kit I want to start with. There is a demo app that I can choose from, and it actually already has a to-do app built in where you can play with it. I forgot to give it a name, so I will just start again. Otherwise it will just called my app. So I'm choosing skeleton version and ESLint. It will create a script within my package JSON for linting, and voila. Let's go now to my to-do app folder with cd to-do app. I will install it with npm install, obviously. Shortcut is npm I, and I will open VS Code when the installation is done. In VS Code, I get this message which asks me whether I trust the creators of that project. I actually do. Let's have a quick look into package.json first. We can see that there is a dev script, and this is what I will run in a minute. There is also my script for linting and for prettier and for formatting as well. So let's run npm run dev in the console, or yarn dev if you use yarn. And it's starting amazingly quick. It gives me port 3000 to work with. So when I develop it, I can open port 3000 in my browser and it will display there. And this is how it looks right now. So this app HTML is our entry point to the application. It includes some basic HTML tags along with some Svelte code that will be inserted there. For example, the Svelte head is something that we can use within Svelte to set HTML meta tags for our page. I'm not going to work much with this file. The important file for me is this index.svelte, which is in source directory. Okay, so let's start working on this thing. I don't need that for now. Here we work with three basic areas. It's very similar to Vue.js in that case. We create script for JavaScript code. we make HTML area for our markup, and we have a style section for CSS code. So my to-do app will need some basic input where I can type in a new to-do task. And I will have a button for which I will create a handling function later. I will initialize this let to-do variable for a string. This is where I'm going to store value of this input box, and I'm going to use it later when adding new tasks. So now I'm connecting this variable to a value in this input. Let's also give it a placeholder text. So this is how it looks in the browser. We can see in our development tools that it's creating some basic markup. Let's make it a bit bigger. When I click on the routes tag here, I can see my state, and there is my to-do variable with an empty value. I forgot to bind my to-do value. Let's do it now. This way, my state value is connected to this input, and when I type something in, it's going to update it within the state. See, when I type it in, it's updating the state value. Now I create another section for the list of to-dos. I created this array of to-dos before, so I can use it within my application. So this will be initial value for my to-dos. Each of them will have a unique ID. Here I'm just hard coding them. Normally we could use a library for creating those unique IDs. It will have a task value, which is a text of the to-do, and it will have a boolean value to see whether it's done or not. So now I want to display my array of to-dos. So to do it, I'm going to use this each loop. I'm wrapping everything in curly brackets. So I'm passing there my array of tasks. And then I have my object that I can work with. After that, I can close my each loop. And within that, I can display my to-dos. Every time it loops, it's going to display a paragraph with a value. You probably noticed that I used tasks. It's a mistake of mine. It's supposed to be to-dos. To-do.task. So now that I have my list, I would like to add another element to it. Let's create a function. I will call it add to-do. I don't need to pass any variables, and I'm not returning anything. I'm overwriting my array of to-dos with a new array, to-dos plus a new object. My new to-do will obviously have an ID, so let's start with 0 here, like good programmers do. I could just write here ID number 3 or 5 or whatever, but we will actually create new unique IDs for each of them. So let's create a variable that will increase every time we click add to do. I'm calling it current index with initial value of the length of my array, and each time when we press on add to do, it will increase by 1. The value of a new task will be whatever we have in our to do input, and by default it's not done. Let's just connect this function to a button. I'm using onClick event from Svelte. So let's see how it works now. Let's write a new to do in an input. When I click add to do button, it's added to the end of the list. But there's a small issue with it. If I click it again, it's adding another paragraph with the same text. So let's clear that value when the button is clicked. To do equals empty string. But this gives us another problem. Now when we clear our DOM, we can see that it's adding another paragraph, although with empty value. Let's see what the DOM inspector says. Yep, we have plenty of empty paragraphs here. Same happens in Svelte extension. We can see that empty values are added to arrays. So let's fix that. And this is my favorite typo of all JavaScript. written with th. If no to do, then return nothing. See, and now it's working. So the next functionality will be for toggling to do. And here I'm wrapping everything in a div tag. And let's add a new toggle button. So while I'm on it, I will create another button for deleting a to-do. So yeah, we have those two buttons that do nothing for now. I think the alignment could be improved as well. Let's give it a CSS class of to-do. And this class will have a display flex. So now I will push those buttons to the right. Class to-do list for the entire list. And oh, that's a nice error. Svelte is expecting a valid tag. Seems like I didn't really close it properly. And remove that ugly border. And maybe let's change the background. 20 pixels height. And 10 pixels of margin between each of them. It seems like the to-do list is a bit too wide, so let's make it a bit shorter. And yeah, let's align to-do's center. I'm going to turn this paragraph into span element. And maybe some space below. I will add another class for when the to-do is done. So this means that to-do class is added when the is done value is positive. Actually, let's call it done. And let's define this class in CSS. I will give it a different color, maybe lime green. And I will cross it out. So let's see if I change this value in my array. See, this is how it looks now. Add a new function called toggle to do. This one will actually take a parameter of ID. I need to find an index of this to do within my array. There is a special function in JS called findIndex, and it returns a number value that I will use later within my array. I'm going to have a to-do. So we are looking for a value within my array of ID that is same as the one that is passed to this function. So let's override this isDone value by opposite of it. I'm linking my button to this function with onClick event. And let's pass ID to that function. This time onClick is going to call a function that will call my toggle to do function with a to do ID value passed. And obviously I keep on making this mistake with tasks because when I was training to this video I called it the array tasks. So in my reference materials it's called tasks. So now when I click on that button it's toggling my to do. Let's go to our code and we can copy that one. Let's remove one. Our next function will remove a to do. To delete a to do, I will just filter it out from the array of to dos. If ID of this to do is not equal to my current ID, then filter it out. And to call it, I will use similar syntax as before. And let's overwrite my old array with a new array of items. So now I can delete the value, I can add another one, and I can toggle it. And yeah, I had a shower today. I said hello to my daughter. I didn't really write any list of things to do today, so unfortunately I will remove this one. Okay, I think it's enough for now. We seem to have all the functionality we wanted to. The application is functional. It does allow us to add another to-do. It toggles one if it's done, or toggles it back again. If not, we can delete a to-do and we can add another one. So in next video, I will divide all of it into separate components. I will pass my to-do list as a prop, and also I will style my components with a Material UI library to improve the look of my application. Thanks for watching and see you in my next video.